What's filled with every color of the rainbow? Sketching, painting, cutting, gluing, and say, a feisty fox, some beach bodies, carnival dancers, gel plate printing, trees stamped from cardboard tubes, and, some wandering chickens, and more. The answer is Sketchbook Revival, a series of free lessons organized by Karen Abend that features a group of artists sharing all their secrets. Hi, this is Marcy from Sketchbook Scheming. Welcome. In this video, I'd like to recap my work in this year's Sketchbook Revival. This was my second year participating, and I completed about half of the sessions. While last year, I was a bright and shiny newbie artist, jumping into every new technique like a kid tearing open presents on Christmas morning. This year, I felt a little more experienced, but also a little bit more in a rut and in need of some new inspiration. This first session was about creating in the in-between a watercolor journey, and it was very inspirational to even have 5 or 10 minutes to spend some time in your sketchbook versus feeling like you have to set aside a block of hours to create anything. I liked this artist's technique of starting with a contour line and following it in pencil, and then leaving the pencil and going over with some watercolor. This next session was representing Uppercase magazine, and I was so fascinated by this artist and her magazine. I did a whole video about making this one, so I'll link it if you're interested. This artist and this one were both about using blobs to jumpstart your creative process. So this artist looked at a plate of oranges and made the blobs without worrying too much about the exact shape of every orange. And then she went over it with colored pencil and added shading and some various other details. And I love the vividness that she achieved with her colors. And then this artist I've seen before. He's very funny and very inspirational to jump in, be creative, have fun, and play. And he had us put down some random blobs and then create creatures that are inspired by the blobs. This one was very challenging, creating a portrait using colored pencils and using a wide variety of colors that you might not usually associate with making a portrait. I loved how she slowly layered on more and more shading. And then this artist I followed before, and I love the way she uses color and she gets such expression into her characters. The blue and the orange in the fox, I felt was just a great combo. I always love that combo. Who doesn't? And I also loved she gave some really great advice on drawing the fox first in pencil and looking at some large shapes before kind of committing to the lines of your character. And then this one was really fun. Ultimately, at first, I was a little hesitant because I don't often find any meaning in abstraction, but I loved her technique of first making some wavy lines and then some straight or crooked, jagged lines, and then choosing the shapes that you see and selecting the ones also that you want to leave white. And I did find it a very relaxing way to explore shape and design without worrying about whether it captures a likeness or anything like that. And then this artist was about drawing on the beach and really looking at shapes and diving right in, not making a pencil sketch first, and differentiating the foreground, the midground, and the background. It was pretty fun. That's very challenging for me, but I do end up liking the limited color palette. And I guess the way to achieve a busy look without putting in a ton of detail. And then this one was an artist talking about using pieces of collage, inspiration from magazines or papers you create or other ephemera, and making a scene of people at Carnival. It was really fun. I guess I especially liked the headdress. This is supposed to be like a carnival dancer with a huge elaborate headdress. And then this was a reference I saw to a float in the Rio Carnival. He was like a demon holding a torch, and I really love the kind of a layered torch effect that I got. This gold was from an old gift bag, and this was from a gift bag as well. So it was really fun to use a variety of materials and try to make a colorful collage. This was another collage, and it was about doing a monochromatic color palette. So I focused on Caribbean blue, and then you were supposed to make various shades to have highlights and midtones and darker tones. I didn't achieve the variety. I think especially here and here, I needed more contrast. I didn't make enough of the very light blue, I think, but I really liked the grid method, and I used a gel plate. I love some of the textures that I achieved. Ooh, look at these, so cool. And then this was kind of a homemade stencil of a star shape that I made. So I liked it, but again, abstract for me, I don't really grasp it, but I do love playing with the gel plate and gluing things down. So that's just a doodle page. And then this one was about using different approaches to creating some trees. The artist had us cut up a cardboard tube and use it as a stamp. I focused on the number 3 to make my foliage in the tree. It was really fun. I was dubious at first. I just felt resistant to using the tubes as a stamp. But once I did it, I really loved the textures and shapes that were achieved. And I never would have achieved them with going straight in with a paintbrush. This one was called the Color Palette Meets Collage, and I really loved the idea behind this. The artist showed a painting by Georgia Oki and selected colors from that painting to use as their palette. I used a variety of old papers and some new ones. My takeaway will be using colors from a painting I love to just jumpstart a palette and my creative process. This one was about creating motifs in gouache, and the artist painted some chickens. This wasn't part of it. I just had so much gouache left over that I didn't want to waste, so I just quickly made that. And then the artist was a pattern creator, so I wanted to try to create a pattern, so I brought them into Photoshop and created this pattern. This one I really liked. The artist sketched from her imagination, and she's made like this wonky building. And then she also emphasized using some colors that you might not usually choose and kind of just going outside of the lines and creating more of an atmosphere than a literal depiction of the building's colors. And then I tried it myself. This was a gorgeous little house I saw in Ireland. I feel like I should have just tried a building from my imagination to kind of practice the techniques in the lesson. I'll be revisiting this one. And that concludes my recap of Sketchbook Revival, which brought me to the end of my 6th sketchbook. I'll be doing a tour next week, so tune in for that if you're interested. If you participated in Sketchbook Revival, I would love to see your work or hear what your favorite sessions were. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.